fucking rat now! Somebody, I need help getting down.
If there are two conclusions that gamers have come to regarding Final Fantasy VII across all its decades of existence, it is, at its deepest core, two things. Quite possibly the greatest game ever made, and the ugliest game ever made. Yes, Final Fantasy VII over the generations has solidified its place in the gaming zeitgeist as a certified classic, and yet, thanks to today's standards, a Playmobil-ass, old-fashioned, muddy-looking game. Throw in some zesty disparity between its outdated FMVs, and you have a game that none would believe was cutting edge for its time. And that's the context that matters. Obviously, in 1997, 3D graphics were literally like the new hot unknown thing. Right after having Paper Mache Mario, it was wild to have a 3D RPG with such traversable and diverse environments all open to be explored on a grand scale. But for people of the future, people of today, hell, even for people by 2007, it was a presentation that was hard to swallow. But I don't have a hard time swallowing, bitch. I think Final Fantasy VII looks good. But that doesn't change the flow of time, and that didn't stop gamers from asking, what if the game didn't look like that? Cut to 2024, and we are now 2 installments deep into a video game trilogy, remaking, retelling, and reinventing the original title. With a crap ton of coverage, hype, hate, and overall turmoil, it's a little hard to see the clouds for the sky.
Bingo! This is stupid.
Sephiroth!
That's really
Attack it from the rear.
I don't know how that saying goes. I don't even know how that saying works. You know what I mean? Because I don't. The concept of a Final Fantasy VII remake was mythic in RPG culture, and yet, here we are in 2024 with people denouncing its very existence, hating on its plot, and absolutely shitting on its artistic vision. Why? Final Fantasy VII is probably the most important Final Fantasy in the series. There's certainly an argument to be made. As such, a thirst for the title never quenched. And after the decent success of Final Fantasy X2, the first ever direct sequel to this typically anthological video game series, the floodgates opened for the possibilities of sequels and other media to be made of other Final Fantasy titles even after their birth. This was the dawn of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII. And yeah, literal to its namesake, a significant amount of Final Fantasy VII media was created inspired by the original's open ending. The reveal of Advent Children, a sequel CG film to the original, ushered in this extended FF7 universe in 2003, a whopping 6 years after the original's release. Since I was born in '98, I got a weird sense of time comparing and growing up on PS1 and PS2 games. Final Fantasy X was my introduction to the series, so when I would watch my brother and cousin play Final Fantasy VII afterwards, I just thought it must be really, really old. I mean, video game FMVs went from this to this in 4 years. You want to see a 4-year console generation gap today? I think that comparison isn't a little bad faith, like it's just the tech with the times, but you get my point. You can see why child me thought Final Fantasy VII was ancient and not simply a single year older than I. But it's the early 2000s. I'm young, technology fucks, and a sick-ass FF7 movie came out that blew my ever-loving mind with its incredible action set pieces and its action sequences with its Kingdom Hearts 2 reaction commandy ass party member synchros, and yeah, y'all, Nomura was on some real shit in the 2000s. Say what you will about the compilation, but with my brain too baby to wrap around FF7 when it was more fresh, Advent Children and fucking Dirge of Cerberus were the things my developing independent consciousness was able to actually perceive and utilize to develop my personality. Just want to state it here, Dirge of Cerberus fucking owns. And with the compilation fresh and a bleeding edge console generation on the rise, there was no better neo-fantasy grunge Nortec world to demonstrate the next-gen superpower of the PlayStation 3 than Final Fantasy VII. With this demo, the what ifs were dead. Long live the pleading, damning, begging whimpers of FF7 fans for a full-blown remake. Despite the rumors, despite the clamoring, despite the hype, the confirmation and actual promise for a Final Fantasy VII remake wouldn't come until an entire decade of fans bitching and moaning up to 2015. That's 18 years of waiting. Are we to say that gamers were literally waiting and begging for 18 years simply for Cloud to not look like that? I mean, can you blame gamers? Like, look at that thing, man. Can it even blink? Oh shit. Gamerats, you should know, chuddy gamer brain goes kinda crazy. And yes, the desperation for Final Fantasy VII to be remade was palpable, visceral, and undeniable. Like, this shit was nuts, I'm telling you. Even if the game is truly, as so many agree, I agree, it's a classic. The truth is, be it from technical limitation, time constraint, or what have you, the presentation of Final Fantasy VII, in actuality, is in service to itself, rather than a hindrance. With media and art, hindsight becomes nostalgia. Something like a technical limitation is no longer that. With context, it's now just an interesting artistic direction. Obviously, FS7 is no longer cutting edge, and we have the context of technology managing to depict reality much more accurately. And thusly, what once was high detail is now abstract. Blocky Lego characters are now obscured representations of how we can now identify them. Even someone like me, who grew up on the following PlayStation generation, already found the Final Fantasy VII characters almost conceptual, lacking detail, gaping gaps where imagination needed to be stroked to provide the filling. And that's what makes FF7 OG potent. You don't need Cloud presented in this fidelity to make you care about Cloud as a character. We've always cared about our sweet, traumatized, try-hard boy. Look at him. Look at him. With limited technology, layers of non-realism create something that feels, I don't know, I feel hokey using the word, but like art house, like observing events through a stained looking glass. What was a timepiece technical limitation is now an endearing component to something like FF7 with retrospection. We know Midgar's proportions are inconsistent. Its massive sectors housing thousands of people are somehow simultaneously miles apart from wall to wall, yet observable within each other. The closer you get to high definition super detail, the closer you get to a quote unquote true depiction of reality. So the opposite is also true. In my eyes that have only ever been able to examine FF7 with hindsight, its early computer tech, abstract art. That's kind of a huge benefit to FF7's storytelling. Chibi Baby Cloud is a dopey cutie, sure, and the questionable English translation of 1997 and the sometimes cartoony results aside, it's fucked up saying Cloud's FMV witnessed the death of essentially his first real love, and once he's back to his dopey mode, you still have to hear him describe this tragic and horribly human experience. You're missing the details, you're missing the fidelity. How you as the player fill in the gaps and insert the emotional peaks yourself takes a lot out of you personally. I particularly love the uncanny that's created from the original game. It's an effect we're seeing a lot of adoration and pursuit of nowadays as the early 2000s and young tech visuals make a new wave in popularity. So much is given by how much is taken away. The negative space, the lack of something, is what makes computer visuals and sounds powerful, so imposing with a presence. It's so like authentically human in its genuine effort and clunk, but also so human adjacent in the resulting output. This was top tier tech for the time, and considering how good the FMV models look with Squishy Square kind of pioneering what high detailed 3D models could look like, we could have ended up with something much trippier and scarier. These limited representations of elements is what gives the original FF7 its wicked and recognizably alien and odd tone, like the cries of the planet as heard within Bugenhagen's observatory, demonstrating a sound that feels, God, almost forbidden to be witnessed by mankind. Confirming not only the painful death of our planet, but that such an end is inevitable. Don't you hear it? As if to say, I hurt, I I suffer. God damn, chills, y'all. Oh my god. Dim stars radiating their giant little light in the massive abyss of space. The chimes echo out into the void, a tone physical instruments could never replicate. The disturbing scope of the outer expanse, the stars shift to Aerith. She stares at those lights. She stares at us and into the mystifying Mako energy. Almost like she was communing. She walks off and a new form of fantasy finale reveals itself. Not a European epic, but an industrial folk tale. The pre-rendered backgrounds of Midgar look properly dystopian, stanky, and so authentically human, lively, and neon. And gee willikers, if Sephiroth and Jenova don't genuinely scare me in the OG, the digital tube bells and half-synth, half-choir tones in the original rendition of those chosen by the planet is Frisian set to 100%. God, when Sephiroth's psychosis is like building up and he hits us with that line, oh my god, maybe this translation is good. Remake does this song faithfully, wonderfully even, but its rendition doesn't do this to me. The original tones specifically fill me with dread. Like, it's exactly what standing in the presence of a genocidal maniac, hell-bent on destruction with a sick, twisted, and insane plot for domination and godhood sounds like. And the horrid wailing upon witnessing Sephiroth's indiscriminate execution of Nibelheim. It's that tone paired with the visual itself that brings this infamous scene into infamy for me. Jenova is a loathsome intergalactic horror, a parasite on the planet representing some sort of antithesis to Mother Nature herself. I remember being intimidated, frightened, and embarrassed to see this exposed extraterrestrial within the test chamber. Anything to do with her had me so confused and scared. Why does she look like that now? She's so grotesque and she still has boobies and I'm confused. Vincent, save me! The rapid beeping tones of her theme during battle sound like vivid depictions of a star shower or the landfall of some sort of space debris, wicked, cruel, and prejudiced against all other life. I've made the OG FF7 sound like some sort of spooky and harrowing title, which, I mean, it is in a lot of its serious tones. But the beauty of it is that it is a massive and eclectic tale. Midgar is a commanding visual metaphor for class inequality and wealth, but it's also rich with life. With models like these, there's so much life to be programmed. Low poly, low data taken ass. And with pre-rendered environments able to save on space, you're able to express so much lovely detail. That's because thematically, FF7 is just as much about life as it is death. There's legit tragedy, but also you got Loveless playing on the richy upper plate of Midgar. With pretty cobblestone homesteads, goobers like Johnny who are indeed named and personified NPCs, yet they're so far in the background you wouldn't even realize. Or the infamous wall market deep in the Sector 6 slums with its ladies of the night just trying to make a living, and mob bosses, stinky little restaurants, and stanky little gym clubs. And that's just Midgar alone, the brief 6-ish hour intro to the game. You trek the literal entire planet and encounter rich varieties of people and places. Sparkling mines underneath vast mountain passes, a massive military town occupied by Shinra forces, glittering sandy tourist destinations, the Midwest, and the Grand Canyon. Honestly, It's a gargantuan game overflowing with locales, character, and heart. That heart that's to be adored. Even if it makes the game a bit bloated thematically and conceptually, it's remarkable that FF7 pulls off everything it does with all of these executions and notions being uncharted territory for the time. But that means the pacing isn't perfect. Upon witnessing Aerith's fate, the next thing the crew's got to do is... yeah, getting punched in the tummy and gnarling on the glacier ain't the first thing I'd expect after one of the most important characters in the story just died her death, and it gets pretty serious again right after. But that's just a clear indication of the sheer amount of ideas and components Final Fantasy VII is absolutely stuffed with. It can be an extremely goofy, silly game, whether intentional or not. But yeah, that's that heart, isn't it? And one that you would think after projects like Advent Children, with its hardcore super edge, would be changed for the remake to make it more self-serious. So what about that remake I mentioned, huh?
Commencing disingenuous hyper RPG chud review. The remake is shit, man. They nerfed Tifa's boobs. Me boobs! Sephiroth is in it too much. He was supposed to be like Jaws. He was supposed to be a shark. Now he's a beautiful boy. Stupid little plot ghouls. They added fate and destiny and shit like it's Final Fantasy 13. They completely destroyed the character of the original for this inconceivable nonsense. Square don't get it at all.
Yeah, this whole video is inspired by the fact that I'm seeing the exact same sentiments repeat themselves in response to Rebirth's ending, just as they were towards Remake's ending. Because, you know, I get people's points. Despite some freaky alien shit, some magical ancient race of human shit, some tactical metaphysical collective afterlife force shit, the Dino Tank. Final Fantasy VII is pretty grounded. And now we have hooded weepers guiding and intervening with the crew to ensure the original events of FF7 happen in the remake. These bastards came out of nowhere, and there's nothing like them in the original. Oh. I understand the distaste for these unexpected additions and the odd kind of meta-narrative at play. Both Remake and Rebirth kind of whip you in the face with their pacing. Like 90% of the game is, yeah, they get it. And then the final 10% happens and FF7 bros are like, they don't get it at all. They have destroyed the legacy of Final Fantasy VII. And yeah, 90% of the time, the team behind FF7 R1 and 2 absolutely, undoubtedly get it. They more than get it. As mentioned, a lot of people didn't like the extra serious tones of the compilation. Advent Children traded in a mosey cloud for a mopey one and all of this edge, or something like that. Crisis Core and its I'm a deep sad teen reading poetry shit with all of the edge, and Dirge of Cerberus with Dirge got gacked, a Japanese god of sex and rock and roll, to go full mode on the game with 2 songs and insane shredding guitars and fucking organs. And you're not gonna take a bite out of it? What, is Edge cringe to you, huh? You cringing at Steve Blum voices Vincent and it's like, honestly, like, too much? Don't want a little nibble? Come on, y'all, take a bite. Trust me, this shit is delicious. Just take a bite and enjoy it. Yeah! But nah, y'all, Remake and Rebirth does what any FF7 FNAF would really want. Every fine detail of FF7 ever gets time in the spotlight now. Even the most niche and sweet. Love the Street recreated in excruciating detail with skyboxes that, whoa. Skyboxes that really, whoa. Whoa! There's depth and tragedy to the damage of the reactor bombings, and some change in context that make our favorite little eco-terrorists a little less eco-terroristy, because, like, I get it, they're more upfront and realistically depicted characters now, so not coming up with some excuses as to why so many people died would kinda have people fall off, I think. Square fleshing out lore and context and world building now. Every NPC you could imagine is here to a painstaking degree. stuff that was likely conceptualized with the original but never managed to see the light of day. Like seeing a larger variety of soldier and ex-soldier members in Roche and fucking Glenn. There's deeper and slow-roasted interpersonal character dynamics between our party members, like some sort of character writing 101 pot roast. The hooded figures present a more featured and imposing role as the overarching subconscious influence of Sephiroth, like they were intended to be. Wait a minute, and Sephiroth gets control of the weepies from Remake to Rebirth that look like this, and now they personify his presence in the live stream? And nah, never mind. No way. And it ain't just the RPGS plot and world heavy stuff that's bolstered to crazy levels. The cartoonish nonsense, the Johnny. He's his ol' ass own boy and got an arc all the way from Remake to Rebirth, landing him back to Costa del Sol just like the OG. People thought Modern Square would never depict Cloud cross-dressing in Wall Market to get in with the Playboy slimeball mob boss Dorn Canoro. Brother, this shit has its own arc with written lyrics and Vegas showbiz. And now, instead of playing off the cross-dressing sequence as a joke, it's run by and executed by an effeminate gay man who tells Cloud not to be afraid and that beauty transcends gender. What the fuck? Square can do that? Square went woke?
It went woke!
It encapsulates the intentions of the sequence better than the original, where the biggest point of Girlfriend Cloud was to poke fun at his inauthentic and hyper cool guy facade, and that's put on glorious dance number display. That classic Junon minigame where you gotta perform for the president of Shinra undercover? Yeah, that's a whole ass explorable town ass multi-hour long ass event with new stakes, highs and lows, and drama. Red 13 dressed like a soldier undercover, he does that shit in broad daylight now just so he can play a card game and does a moonwalk to get to the stage. Like, it's honestly intimidating how diligently and vividly Square has gone into realizing each party member and giving you as much time with them as possible. Remake introduces and sets the characters up, but Rebirth is all about just existing with them, really getting on with them in just a big spanking adventure. I liken it a lot to the kind of vibes and stuff of Avatar: The Last Airbender. That globe-trotting adventure, the fun and wonderment that goes about on the in-betweens of much realer and heavier plot stuff. How about all these FF7 regions are their whole ass own open world maps that continually try out new flavors of exploration. Wide, tall, narrow, or sweeping layouts. And that's why the game is as long as it is, or that it can be, so that you can have that time with this party and steep into this world. It's time I don't think anyone expected, but any FF7 FNAF dreamt of, especially with the level of variety present to not even really make it feel that long. Quests and fights and lands and skies that pair you with your party, so characterization, relationships, and lore and love can blossom. I'm seeing a whole lot of love for the nature, the heart of the OG, and it takes that confidence with the new stuff too. Like all this new time you get to spend with the party members. That doesn't even mention the flash and flex of it all. You thinking ATB? How about instead of waiting on that meter, you flashily fight and partner with your party to charge that ATB up yourself? A brand new area depicting the deepest support beams and trashy layers of the bottom of Midgar? How about a 5-piece jazz ensemble beat harkening to a Cowboy Bebop chase sequence with even some of the infamous jazz motifs in there? All of that character. Y'all, this project has over 7 original songs in both Japanese and English, written for an in-universe turtle-themed bar.
Turtle! I want a balloon like that. There's...
We have banging ass dad rock chiming in with this banter between Don Corneo's lackeys, leading to a metal fight song version of that turtle bar.
Wow, if you want to pull up a seat at the grown-ups table, be my guest. Go on again, fully wrecked at the Happy Turtle!
I'm sorry, I just keep going on and on, but damn dude, this project has gushed. Such a lofty, unruly, soaring genuinity to itself. The Shinra Combat Simulator having a pain sensation level maximum setting is so incredible and cartoony, but so Shinra. Like, I believe it in universe so much. It ended up crushing its provings. This team is in love with Final Fantasy VII. That's the 90%. And then all this weird, wild shit at the conclusions of Remake and Rebirth, with the facets of the original at play as intentional meta context for the remake, such as the player likely knowing that Aerith dies later in the story, or having seen Advent Children and now the characters have two, and the sort of off-the-wall fan servicey nature of other characters coming back to life in some sort of alternate reality, or other worlds as Rebirth calls them. Like, that's so much. How did we get here? What's even the point of the remake? I see this confusing sequence that literally left people dumb-brained trying to interpret if Aerith actually died or not. So, like, what's the intent? The craving for remakes, remasters, and revisiting or adapting what we love and have nostalgia for is such a problem in terms of progress of art and ideas. Stagnation, longing for an eternity with these things. If the remake project went one-to-one, what would the purpose of its existence have been? To make the original game obsolete? If the goal was to make it so you don't need to play the original anymore, I don't know why you'd even want that. And truly, you can't do that anyway. And I'm seeing some irony here. It seems there's this fate imposed on FF7 to always want it to be more. These characters in this world, fans are locked in an unending nightmare of wanting it to be the forefront of gaming tech. Rebirth came out, it looks amazing, it's technically impressive for sure, and then some are already imagining it looking so much better. I see that history repeating itself. The remake project being built on Unreal Engine 4 is already technically outdated against other AAA games developing in Unreal Engine 5. We already have those asking, what if they made it in UE5? Or fix these textures, or this lighting, when with interactable nature and more? What if we remade the remake? What if Final Fantasy VII looked like this? You gotta stop, friend. I do not fuck with that. I want Tifa, I want her shoes, I want to be in them, I want them on me. As far as my perspective goes, I saw that fans didn't even want Square to move away from the turn-based combat. A literal zero changes adaptation. I want the exact game, just rebuilt graphically. And like, obviously game making doesn't fucking work like that. So the devs understand that that amount of effort to appease the wish fulfillment of fans with a carbon copy of the game is creatively garbage and frankly boring. The original is its own artwork, and so too is Remake. But through the years, a universe was made out of FF7, and Remake is delivering on recapturing and realizing favorite characters, favorite moments, and capturing new feelings of the same themes. The context is everything. The original will always be this weird, hollow feeling, dread-filled art piece about loss, climate crisis, performative masculinity and identity, low poly visuals, iconic soundscapes, and limited representation of its environment creates an utterly fascinating, charming, and heartbreaking world. Every game is one of a kind. No remake, not even remasters, can ever truly go back, ever truly recapture. Remake understands that and utilizes that in the fact that it aligns with the themes that FF7 has always represented. Gamers, you have to let go. Pursuit of an eternity with something can only exist in stagnation. That's why Sephiroth's goal of wanting to be a god in order to never die, never let things die, and create literally eternity is a goal our heroes fight against. Woof, what does this mean? What does this remake mean to us? We don't doubt the intent of the artist when they create a new rendition of a painting, but yet I see this response that sort of feels like an entitlement for gamers to take ownership with video games. That's not to deny the very personal experience one has with the games they play. It's that very personal experience with interactive entertainment that probably garners that response. That's valid, but there's this trend to believe that one knows better than the artist that created it once further things get developed. I'm not out here to tell you that Advent Children is a flawless film. Cloud's characterization isn't my favorite either. Is that the result of the creators not knowing the character of Cloud, or did they just genuinely want to explore these aspects of him and depict how he works through it? Hardcore aspects of guilt, feeling responsible for someone's death, that's cold tough. And also it does it with edgy motorcycle fighting and a ragtag group of misfits joining together to reaction command destroy a dragon god. I just rewatched Advent Children for the first time in like a decade plus for this video. I actually watched AC Complete for the first time, which, wow, the scenes it adds are like really valuable. It improves the storytelling a fair bit, I'd argue. And damn piss and ass if it is not a lot better than I remember it being. Maybe the remake hindsight got me forgiving it more. Like, yeah, it's clunky and awkward and doesn't present its themes, nor is its writing refined or what I'd call nuanced. Just wears its cloud heart on its cloud sleeve. Rude getting his head absolutely slapped by that giant ass billboard. I don't know about the localization. It makes scenes like this play out in a weird kind of pace, but also the kind of subtlety to Cloud and Tifa's relationship. I genuinely really enjoy its ambiguity. It's really sincere.
Dilly dally, shilly shally. Dilly dally, shilly shally.
And like half of this shit really is just cool fights with CG that still holds up. So yeah, I got my problems, but also I fuck with it. You can talk about what you might have preferred or wanted, but I feel a lot of it stems from reactionary viewpoints where the only criteria was your own expectations and that gaming is only about servicing said expectations, which it's not, obviously. Art is about exploration and gaming is art, bitch. If you think about the core values and themes of FF7, life and death, and how that's depicted with capitalism and the weight of the death of the world on our generation's shoulders, every single FF7 compilation title brings something new to those themes or something else that might want to be covered of those ideas. Kazushige Nojima has been a writer for every Final Fantasy VII title. He's worked on Final Fantasy VII for over 25 years. Otomo Toyama has been a writer / planner for the OG and remake and rebirth. And yes, Tetsuya Nomura has always been there. He's always there. Obviously, it's not exclusively a product created by only them, but if you can examine all of FF7 as an art, as a active work, always being a story about these ideas, the reaction to invalidate and get so caught up against unexpected things instead of being in for the ride is a bit bonkers to me. Like, I'm in it for the fantasy. I'm in it for the batshit wild stuff. It is confusing and unusual, and that shit is so fun. But either way, you can look past these things for the greater commentary. I feel so many don't look past the meme. What they think is a laughable attempt at story writing because of its complicated nature, and take things at face value. I think it's wacky. I think it's cheesy. Therefore it's stupid. It shits on the original and has no value. And that is such a flat and flaccid way to examine anything, let alone what is originally a favorite game or story of yours. Yeah, shit's anime at times, but I'll be damned if a cheesy or a wacky story hasn't viscerally changed me as a person before. And also, fuck that description as a criticism. Anime and anime stories own. Game designers and these creators are artists and they have intent and are all collectively trying to depict and say something. They always have been. I'm not saying that things aren't open for criticism. Yeah, the ending of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, there's some crazy pacing going on that I would have preferred to be adjusted. Give Aerith's fate a bit more breathing room and impact, and yet I can see that the pacing is stifling and congested and tricky with intent. It appears to be that way. There's a reason it was taken away from us. The holy grail moment of FF7 was taken from its fans in a confusing, conflicting, and troubling sequence of events that leads to a literal 10-phase boss fight. That's some RPG shit. I am so on it. And yeah, lo and behold, the Ultimania coming out in Japan already points out details that validates this intent. They did something risky. The developers yet again unexpectedly took something cherished by the gamer. When original FF7 players loved Aerith and felt betrayed that she's legitimately killed in the game, now the entire sequence and idea that you have so much like nostalgia for, now they've taken that away. Now you experience A New Death, where we see a depiction of Cloud's infamous speech while holding Aerith's dead body. Hell, interviews have confirmed that Cody Christian, the voice of Cloud, literally suffered through recording those emotional lines already. It's there, it's recorded. The devs literally and intentionally took that away from you. They took away the infamous water burial, and when the whole party begins to fight Genova in response to Aerith's death, every single one of them starts with a limit break to be used in battle, except Cloud Strife. Nomura says that in the original FF7, in order to depict the cruel loss of someone you cherish, they had Cloud be a bystander as Sephiroth killed Aerith. In Rebirth, they wanted to fight back against Destiny and have Cloud make an effort to parry Sephiroth's attack. However, when you actually lose someone you cherish in the real world, you aren't able to accept it right away. FF7 Rebirth strives to depict that inability to accept the loss of someone precious to you. Cloud's psychic interference reflects this state of mind. They're playing with Cloud's unreliable narrator aspect at pain sensation level maximum. That's been the goal of the entire remake project. They have taken literally every ounce of the original and quadrupled it. So why wouldn't it be the same for these events? Just to make Cloud coming to terms with his identity, his masculinity, and his false memories in the final act all the more provoking and painful. It's all pretty freaking smart in my eyes, where the remake project exists on two planes of being a retelling of events and yet also a meta-contextual pseudo-sequel to not just the OG but all of the compilation, taking in all its ideas, themes, and characters, vastly improving their writing and implementation, throwing in a little bit of fan service spice to give it this grand finality to it all. If there's anything that FF7R1 did besides lay down the bones for what this whole project would feel like, it solidified how much you should trust everyone working on this project as artists. There's clearly nothing but love and adoration for the original. It is passionately and viscerally trying to weave everything FF7 to incredible effect. It's just kind of wild that some people would just drop it on these nasty assumptions. It gives a bad impression on how people perceive what they participate in. I'm not trying to I don't know, generate a holier than thou. I don't fucking know. People criticize and drop stuff like it's fucking content to be pleased with, and it's not just fucking content. None of this IP and property shit, and video games aren't that shit, and they are art. What's so great about FF7 was that for all its blockiness and choppiness and its weirdness, well, that's exactly what it is. It was weird and eclectic and unconventional. There's so many things about it that are still unconventional. Cloud is such an exceptional role model, and he's getting a shining gold standard character arc with how he was always a critique or play off of the self-insert cool dude for 14-year-old edge boys, when in reality, Cloud is the 14-year-old edgy boy, desperately trying to be cool, and his weakness, lack of emotional maturity, integrity, and genuine trauma have him steal the personalities of his masculine role models to a damaging degree. One of my biggest gripes with the original is the conflicting memories of Tifa and Cloud regarding the Nibelheim incident. One of these cliche, wow, if they just literally communicated openly, they could figure this all out type of situations. And Rebirth's characterization addresses this in believable and well-constructed ways that the OG could have totally used but just didn't. It's smarter. The payoff is Cloud snapping and Tifa getting the shining and chilling moment inside the live stream. It's foreshadowing for us to how and where Cloud will mend his own memories and reconcile with his trauma, but this isn't characterization of Tifa only for the sake of Cloud. Her experience leads the way for the party's perspective on the conflict and finally gets her and Cloud to have a genuine conversation. And I love this conversation between the two. Yeah, this moment put Rebirth into a mesmerizing category of love as far as gaming goes. I see neither dilly or dally, shilly nor shally. Obviously, there's the production of and the franchising of all of this. Capitalism will ride anything until it is a dead horse and then beat it. But as far as I can tell, despite the request of the fabled remake, this horse ain't dead. And when asked, these creators still know of and can think of all kinds of things they would love to cover in this world. And they're doing it, not with creatively bankrupt Nemurian bitch writing, but with intention, subversive but accurate storytelling, and a vision. And I love it. So just sit in that vibe, y'all. We've waited so long and there's no need to rush to conclusions. Cause if life was a rat race, they wouldn't call it a mischief. Also, get off Nomura's ass, y'all. Look at this man. He wears his edgy boy heart on his sleeve. No normie artist or creator could ever make a fit that goes so fucking hard. You know he demands that the lighting and cameras be set up like this for his interview. He's the only one with that camera angle and that lighting. And you know what? He's a visionary, damn it. All hail Nomura!